Alright guys, something a little different today. Thought I would bring y'all down to a place I've been coming to since I'm a teenager. Comp Cams, right here in Memphis, Tennessee. And you can see they've actually got a little something here that I may or may not have been up and down the racetrack with. Even a cool photo of the Werner gang from back in the day. It's pretty cool. Come on, let's take a tour. Walk in here, Mr. Mark Campbell, VP of Sales, is going to give us a run through, but you cannot come in the door of Comp Cams without seeing this lady right here, Miss Ethel.
Hi.
How long you been down here?
30 years.
30 years. I'm trying to do math.
Math is hard.
I'm trying to do math. She's like 32 years old, so she started here when she was 2.
When a toddler. Yeah.
That's what we're going to say anyway. Right?
Exactly. Another cool thing that we worked with Comp Cams when we did the burnout in front of Elvis's house. That's hanging up in here. One of my favorite places. Mark, going to give us a tour.
Absolutely. I'll show you
Mark,
through the place.
Kind of what all do you do down here? I know you kind of cover a lot. But
Yeah. So basically, I oversee the whole sales team for now Edelbrock and Comp Cams. So I have a lot on my plate, that's for sure. But I love it. I just absolutely love it. I mean, we got the greatest customers. We got great people like you that we get to deal with. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. That's for sure.
So I've been coming in and out of here, like I say, since I was a teenager, and to this day, there's enough cubicles, enough things, I still get lost, so you got to lead us.
Absolutely. It's like a maze.
It is. So I got to tell this story. I'm sorry, Mark. So
absolutely.
So this hood has been around. I've actually signed it, and I'm trying to find it here, but at one point, a guy named Dale Earnhardt, not junior, senior, signed it, and unfortunately the cleaning lady was trying to get this thing dusted off and wiped away the Intimidator signature, but it's on there somewhere. There's some cool names on there. There's Doug Yates, Sammy Swindell. I don't know who that guy is right there.
Yeah,
Signed it in 1998. Just trying to look. Waddell Wilson. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That signature, he can't write worth a crap, but I know who that is too. That would be one John Force.
John Force, yep.
Hillary Wheel. Mike Neff. And I know you're going to cut half of this stuff, Nathan. I'm just looking. Brett Kepner. He's been on my Tuesday night show.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Mark, I'm sorry.
Perfect. Well, as we walk back through here, basically all the guys that are in this room here are our engine builder sales team. So they deal directly with the engine builders that we have such a great relationship with. So all the big shops, the little shops, everybody, they're calling in here on a daily basis and getting cams spec'd and buying parts, and we're doing our best to make cars go fast.
So when you say engine builders, go on to spew us off some of them big names.
I mean, you name one. I mean, we pretty much deal with all of them. I mean, certainly some of the guys that lots of people recognize, people like Kenny Duttweiler. I mean, we do lots of stuff with him on his land speed stuff. Lots of the big engine builders, as far as guys that are doing dirt late model stuff and sprint car stuff, drag race guys. I mean, yeah, just I could go on and on and on with the list. NASCAR guys. They're a little bit unique in the way that a lot of them are grinding their own camshafts now, just because it's so secretive, but we do a lot of core production for them. We obviously design a lot of lobes for them. So yeah, there's all kinds of guys that we're dealing with on a regular basis. The who's who is definitely calling in her on a regular basis.
So Nathan, I couldn't pull no secrets out of him, but believe me, there's a lot going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I see an important meeting going on, but we're going to bust in here anyway.
Absolutely.
Because this guy right here is trouble. He is nothing but trouble.
How you doing, buddy?
Wearing that Mississippi State stuff all the time.
I got some application forms in here if you'd like to have one.
Well, it's got to be easy. It's Mississippi State. So is it a like multiple choice to get in?
Well, you know Chris Hoffman. We all know Chris Hoffman. You know, he's the Kentucky there. And he was ragging me one time about Kentucky dominating Mississippi State in basketball. I said, well, Chris, you're exactly right. Y'all do dominate us, but at least Mississippi State's not a one-dimensional sports team.
This is not a sports show, and I'm not starting.
How you doing, buddy?
It is a team.
But the thing about Clay is that you knew he was going to make it and do good because he had the home training, but you just didn't start being a good guy. You've been a good guy all your life.
Well, Mama made me that way. Mama knew what a switch was and a belt was, and she knew how to use it.
Exactly.
It's amazing how much influence those things have on making us turn out to be decent people now.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So it's good to have good people and winners at the same time.
Well, there's a bunch of winners down here. I don't know about Mississippi State, but he's a winner, though.
Easy.
We're making a tour, obviously. That's what we're
okay.
doing.
You can find our way back.
See what I'm talking about? The maze getting through here? Which this place has been here for a long time.
And it's been added on to 26 times.
Exactly.
So.
Getting back into the fun stuff now.
So this part of the building here is where we actually do a lot of the final assembly of our rocker arms. So you'll see like the bodies come in here. These are actually made up in our facility in Michigan. So a lot of machining is done up there. And they come down here, they'll get the black oxide coating put on them, and then they'll go through this area here, basically get the bearings pushed in them, get the roller tip put on them, and then they go over to packaging and go in the box and ship them out to the customers.
Off they go.
So, absolutely. Yeah, all of our camshaft cores are over here. So anything that we've kind of pre-made as far as the camshaft goes is over here. So we can kind of show you what we got going on over here. Journals are semi-finished. They'll still get to be ground down a little bit, but the lobes are completely unfinished. So they kind of look the shape of a camshaft lobe, but really it's what we call a UGL, unground lobe camshaft, and we can turn this into a final product. So this is a big block Chevrolet. It looks like probably a 55 millimeter camshaft. So that'll go into a pretty serious race car at one point or another. And yeah, you can see, I mean, it's pretty rough, but
you wouldn't want to put that in like that.
No, that's not going to be too good on the lifters, that's for sure. But it'll go back. We'll go in and show you the final grinding of these camshafts in the back here in just a couple minutes. But that's kind of how it starts its life out. We'll also show you how we get it to this point as well, because we got those machines in the back too. So
it's kind of what I wanted to show, especially down here, because we've won races, records, we've done it all, and start from right here.
Absolutely. Well, and the cool part is over the years, I mean, obviously we've worked with you for about ever, and some of the technology that's in these camshafts today is stuff that we tried on your car. And if it will live in a fuel car, it'll probably live in a lot of other stuff, because not maybe you necessarily, but some of those guys can be really hard on things.
Oh, I can be too. I can be too.
Absolutely. They go over to this area where they get laser etched. Every single camshaft has a part number and of course a serial number. So it's like a birthday.
Yep.
I mean, we know exactly when the camshaft started to get made, and as it goes through the shop, it gets tagged. Everybody that touches the camshaft, we know who touched it every step of the way. So
and the cool thing is, I know, kind of mentioned that secret thing earlier. The camshafts that go in the Parts Plus Top Fuel car have a specific number, and even if you were to take that number and call in, you can't buy that camshaft, because if you work with these guys directly and you develop a camshaft with them, that cam is proprietary to your race team. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely, and everything in our computer system is marked that way. So specific lobes, specific camshafts, anything like that. I mean, they can call in and give us a serial number, and we can see what's there. But if it's marked a certain way, we can't divulge that information, that's for sure.
So essentially, you can have your own camshaft too. You just got to start working with these guys, go out and develop what works for you, and that's what we've done for decades now.
Absolutely.
Let me change.
Injector fluid testing as well too for our fast fuel injectors. And as you can see, I mean, here we have more. These are actually what we classify as a spool. So you can see that, I mean, journals are kind of done, but the lobes are still 100% round. So at this point, the camshaft hasn't necessarily been heat treated. So what we'll do is we can pull this off the shelf, take it back there. We can lobe mill it, as we call it, to make these kind of in that shape that you saw. Then it'll go out for heat treat. So these are just kind of left like this so that there's more range that we can do a camshaft on with these. So you'll see stuff throughout the building that is all kinds of different ways. So this machine here is our plasma nitride machine, and that's kind of a unique process that we do. You can do it to crankshafts, you can do it to camshafts, you can do it to a lot of the small parts and pieces that we make. And as you can see, this great big capsule swings over and goes over top. There's a load of camshafts in there that's just going to get done here shortly. And what this basically does is it creates another heat treat process to the surface of the camshaft. Typically done on flat tappet camshafts, but can be done on a lot of different things. And quite a unique cycle. It takes, 8 to 24 hours to run a cycle on this machine, depending on what's going in it. And something that we do right in-house here, and not a lot of other companies do it. It's something that we kind of developed many years back. And it's a pretty neat process. These machines here, the great big one on the right, and then these two smaller ones on the left, these are our MSE or micro surface enhancement machines. This is something that we work very hard on. Billy Godbold and the whole engineering team worked really hard on this for many years to perfect it. It's not just, people go, oh, you're polishing cams. Well, yes, but no. I mean, it's a very unique process. Certainly the machines are something that can be bought pretty much anywhere, but what's inside the machines is really what counts. That material, the abrasive material that we put in there, is very unique to what we're doing, and that's really what we worked on for so long. And basically what it does is it just takes that surface and makes it perfectly flat and perfectly smooth. Anytime you machine stuff, you get ridges. Right. Well, this really gets rid of a lot of those ridges and just does an incredible job. Bearing area, as what we talk about on camshafts, before we started doing this was in the 20% range. Once we finished with this machine, they're up in the 90% range as far as bearing area goes. So it really increases the load carrying potential of the camshaft. So pretty awesome. These machines here basically are when we developed them, of course, you were one of the first ones that we really used this on to test it, to see. Obviously, fuel cars, especially on the exhaust side, that exhaust valve trying to open with all that pressure and all that nitromethane trying to blow the cylinder head off puts a lot of strain on all the parts really, but especially the camshaft, the lifters, and the lobe itself. So yeah, that tracking that we typically see, or ditching on the camshaft, is something that we've tried to fix with this and really prove that it works. And we went from, I think, 7, 8, 9 runs on a camshaft to well over 20, 25 runs. So that's a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah, to the point that we started calling, like, do we want to keep running this or not? Because you mentioned Billy Godbold, which I hope we get to see at some point today.
Yeah, we'll go over and see Billy.
He's a freaking rocket scientist. But this process really extended the life of the cam, and something that, when that started, you were the only guys that were doing it, and
yep. It still are to this day, really. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's some other people out there that are trying to do a similar process, but nobody's come close to equaling what we do. So with the flatness, the smoothness, the load bearing area on the camshaft was second to none. So,
yeah, for sure, it extended the life of the camshafts, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. I think we actually still have one of the original cams in Chris's office. You'll probably see it. You signed it and everything like that when you won the race.
In Bristol.
In Bristol, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. So here we have a couple of examples. So these camshafts haven't been through the polisher yet. And then you can see these ones have been. Now you'll really notice it on stuff like this. You can see the beautiful, a lot of people look at these and think they're like a polished show camshaft. Well, no, this is exactly what we're putting in an engine as well.
So this is what a standard camshaft looks like when you get it before it goes through this micro polishing process. And it's definitely a difference. And I know for a fact they last longer. So that cam will look like that cam after it goes through the process. Like I said, it just looks like a show car piece. You know what I mean? Like something you display.
Yep, for sure.
I know when they showed up at the shop, I called, this just looks like it's chrome, but that's that much polish done to it.
Yep.
We showed you the polishing process over there, which is awesome. Now let me show you the next camshaft we're going to put in the fuel car. I don't even think I could pick that up.
I was going to say, we'll give you $10 if you pick it up.
What is that?
That is for a tractor, basically.
That's a tractor?
Yeah.
So Cotton Cams not only builds the quickest, fastest cams in the world, they make cams for tractors.
Absolutely. We literally make camshafts for about anything. My son has a junior dragster. We just actually did a new camshaft for that thing here not too long ago too. So yeah, literally, if you can imagine, if it's an engine that has a camshaft, we've probably made a camshaft for it at one time or another. So
Now that's a cam. Look at that thing.
yeah, that is definitely one of the bigger ones that we do for sure. But yeah, pretty big stuff, that's for sure.
Ballpark, once a day, once a week, how many camshafts are we talking here?
It varies from day to day, just depending on how busy we are. But we have the ability to do 500 or 600 camshafts a day.
And every one of them go through QC.
They stay busy.
I don't know why, but I'm suddenly fascinated with tractor cams because they're so freaking big.
So we have a couple of guys that specialize in these. You know, it's something that's a little bit more unique, that's for sure. But that's the beauty of our team, is that everybody's good at all of the stuff. But then we have some guys that definitely specialize in specific things. And I mean, Robert is one of the guys that definitely specializes in a lot of these tractor cams and stuff like that. And
Tractor pull applications, I'm assuming? Or?
yeah, most of them are, you know, tractor pull or some kind of a motorsports related
Right.
type thing. Typically not doing one for a stock John Deere or something
Right,
like
right,
that. But
right.
but we have, that's
Yeah.
for sure. So
All right, so now the mechanic in me's coming out. Nathan, I don't know if you can really see this, but you got to explain. So this looks like a normal cam lobe that I'm used to, where this one has multiple lobes.
you know what, I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure on that. I can say
Almost looks like a rotary. you know,
well,
like
I was
a-
going to say that a lot of these will have like a fuel pump or something like that that
Gotcha.
drives off the camshaft, and
Yeah.
it'll have multiple lobes. Especially, you can even talk about like the new GM LT engines. They have a fuel pump lobe on the camshaft, and it drives a high or very high pressure
Right.
fuel pump. Now they only have one, but I believe that on a lot of these applications, these diesels, they'll have multiple pumps and multiple different things on them. But yeah, I have to say I'm a little dumb on this one, but.
Somebody on here will correct us. and let us
Exactly,
know.
exactly, yeah. I know a lot about cams, but I don't know everything about them, that's for sure. What this machine here is, you can see AdCol is the name of the machine. And what this thing does is this is really going to profile the camshaft or tell us exactly what the cam is. It's got this little probe right here with a wheel on it that simulates the lifter wheel. It'll come out, automatically go, the camshaft will spin, and it basically will check lobe and journal, run out, obviously all the dimensions of the lobe itself. And this thing measures to 8 digits below 0.
So this is a super duper fancy cam doctor.
Pretty much, yes. It's a $500,000 cam doctor is what it is, and we have several of them in this room, of course. So
So this is a $500,000
yeah,
micrometer.
yeah, fully
basically.
loaded up with all the stuff that we have on them. They're right in that range. So, but basically, what it'll do is it'll verify everything based off the dowel pin location, because that's really how everything is timed on a camshaft, is off that dowel pin or keyway, and it measures everything. Every camshaft that comes through here gets at least 2 lobes checked, 2 intakes, 2 exhausts, and a couple of the journals. And then on the high-end race car stuff like yours, we'll do all 16. And customers can request all 16 as well if they want. And you can get a complete printout of this, as well as that serial number that we talked about earlier. That's how we know. So all of this information goes into the computer, and we can look it up at any given time, tell you exactly what the camshaft is.
So again, kind of the normal racer thing is cam doctor, but
Yep.
the cam, this would actually measure if the cam was laying sideways. You can see movement. Am I correct? That's how
Absolutely.
precise this
So
is.
this thing we stand the camshaft up specifically, because if it was like this, as crazy as it seems, that cam will actually slightly sag when the journals of the block aren't holding it in
Right.
place. But this machine is that accurate that it will in fact detect sag in the camshaft. So that's why we stand them up like they are.
Yeah, I love this machine.
Oh yeah, it's
Whenever somebody tries to tell me that, you know, there's a cam company that's better than this one, I immediately go to this machine, and I know that's how precise everything's done here. I know that.
well, one of the things that one of our original owners, Scooter Brothers, said, we can only make things as good as we can measure them.
That's a
Wow.
great line.
It is. It's perfect, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we can measure extremely well, just like we have, you know, a skidless profilometer over there and all kinds of different machines in this room that are extremely precise at measuring things. And yeah, you can only make it as good as you can measure it. I mean, if you're measuring with a tape measure, yeah, it looks pretty good,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You measure it with a micrometer, okay, now maybe it doesn't look as good. Measure it with this, and if it's wrong, it's going to look really wrong. So yeah, it's all about how you can measure things.
Love it. So when I very first started, this is a long story, I'm going to try to make short. Sorry, Nathan. When we very first started Top Fuel, we had cast blocks, not the nice billet things we have now. And when we very first started with Comp and the Top Fuel thing, which there was no question that's what I was going to run because I grew up here.
Yeah.
But we were convinced that the cams were ground different from one bank to the other. In our mind, they were different because when we put the cams in and we were doing our cam timing, it was different from one bank to the other. And even our crew chief, Mike Clover's like, the cams are ground incorrectly. We came down here, we brought a block, we did all these things, and this machine proved to us that the blocks were incorrect.
Yep. Absolutely. We've had that happen
Yeah.
many times since, where we put in bank angles and everything
Yeah.
like that when we're factoring in grinding the camshaft, and if
The lifter boards were in the wrong spot.
right. And we get the same thing, quite honestly. A lot of times people will call us up and they're like, "Hey, I'm putting this LS cam in my engine, I'm degreeing it, and it's out. Your cam is wrong." It's like, well, okay. So we look at the AdCol, everything looks right on the camshaft. It's like, what timing set do you have on the engine? Well, I bought this, off eBay or whatever,
Right.
and it's like, okay, so you have a $500 camshaft that's been profiled on a $500,000 machine, and you have a $36 timing set, and you're blaming our camshaft.
Right.
Well, then they swap it out, put a better timing set or a different timing set, and magically everything changes. It's like, all right. And yes, we can make a mistake. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody can make a mistake, but most of the time,
Yeah.
it's typically other factors
Oh,
that
yeah.
are involved. Like you said, the bank angle, the timing set,
Yeah.
the installer.
I can tell you this, what we ended up doing to correct our problem, it wasn't the camshaft, was Comp actually started changing the bank angle of the camshaft, I'm probably saying that incorrectly,
Yep, no, that's correct.
made the cam different from one side to the other because the blocks were actually wrong.
Yeah, you couldn't. It was too difficult to fix the block,
Right.
so we could adjust the camshaft.
And that's
And we've
what
done
happened.
that before in
Yeah.
many situations. Of course, the new billet blocks, whole different
Yeah,
story.
whole
I mean,
different
they're all
story.
CNC'd.
Yeah.
We still see some variation
Yeah.
a little bit, but at the end of the day, most of the time they're pretty close.
Yeah, the old cast stuff was not as good as what we're running now.
No, and not as easy to fix either.
That's for sure. I love this machine.
Yeah.
Lots of machines out
Oh,
here.
yeah, absolutely. So these two machines here really work together. This one here does a lot of the initial spool production, like what we kind of saw up there where the lobes they're still round basically. It's taking it from basically a round piece of bar stock and turning it into something that kind of looks like what you see here, just a round hunk of metal with a bunch of gaps in it. Once it's done in this machine here, then it'll go over to this other eco mill. That's where we'll take that round spool like you saw over there, and we'll actually shape the lobes into something. I don't know. Looks like they just got a brand new load over here, so we don't have anything that's done. But you can see how that thing is fixtured in there, and that basically starts to turn it into what a camshaft sort of looks like. Once it's through that, then it goes to heat treat. Gets that final heat treat process, then it'll come back and we'll do a final grind on it.
That's crazy how big these machines are and what it takes to make one.
Absolutely.
So this has got like a copper gold look to it and this does not. So are
Yes.
these different materials?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So all camshafts are not the same material.
All camshafts are not. So we start out, your basic flat tappet camshaft is just a cast iron. Then you'll go up to a roller cam, and we have lots of different choices in roller cams. We have Aus-tempered iron, which is kind of your entry-level roller cam. Then we get into the 5160, 5160, 5150, 8620, 8650, 8660. I mean,
So the list goes on.
the list
and on.
goes on and on. And then we get into like tool steel stuff. 9310 is what we run in like your fuel cars. We used to try some tool steel stuff, but we found that it's just too brittle. It's really strong, but it doesn't take any shock at all. Now there's lots of shock in a fuel car, so we got to put something that is kind of middle of the road. But yeah, anything that you see with this copper color on it is typically an 8620 material, and the copper coat is actually kind of part of the whole heat cycle process that we do with these camshafts. These are tool steel camshafts that you can see here. The beauty of a tool steel cam, and the reason why we like those, is because it's a through hardened heat treat. So we can really grind, once we lobe mill it and it's heat treated, you can grind about any profile on it that you want. Whereas with like an 8620 or a 5160 or something like that, the heat treat depth is only so thick. So you're limited to how far up or down you can grind on any particular camshaft. So there's benefits to all of them and different reasons why we use all of them. That's why we have, you know, 20 different versions of the same roller camshaft because there's so many different applications.
I know this, while you think tool steel, that would be the way to go, it is not the way to go in a fuel car because there's way too much weird stuff going on in there. And they won't give, they will break.
Right, absolutely.
So we don't use tool steel in the top fuel car.
Tool steel is great for pro stock engines, for a lot of, you know, cup engines and stuff like that. Those types of applications, but when it comes to like a turbo pro mod, typically you don't want tool steel. Now we do have some that run it, but typically not. That's usually a 9310 or an 8620. So yeah, you really got to pick the material for the application. So this thing here is kind of a unique machine in that it is designed to basically put that gear onto the camshaft. So anything that has a gear that drives the distributor, basically that's what's done on this machine. It's a gear hob, as we call it. Don't have anything sitting in there right now, but basically cam rotates either way depending on if it's a reverse or standard rotation, and that little die in there cuts the gears into the camshaft. So these machines here are kind of our old school machines. Still certainly use them for some stuff, but these are basically a manual cam grinder, or Burco is the brand of machine. Fabulous machines, very accurate, but just not near as fast as our fancy CNC lines. So, but still use these for a lot of different applications, especially some real oddball stuff. But great machines, just not fancy like we're going to see in a minute here with the CNCs.
I always loved coming down here when I was a kid and watching these things work because you can just see the grinding wheel making lobes and guys with their hands working. And old machines are hard to beat.
Absolutely.
Now they may not be all the fancy, latest, greatest, but man, they're awesome.
And still, especially with the right operator, and I mean, we got lots of guys here that have been doing this for a lot of years. With the right operator, they work great.
I'm going to bring up one guy in particular that has been here. I'm not saying he's old, but he's been here for a while. Kenny Arundel is like a master with these machines. And I know over the years when we were talking about bank angles, this, that, and other, he actually got involved with fixing some of that, and he can run these machines.
Well, we'll probably see Kenny over there here shortly. So these two machines here that we have, we're really proud of these. We got the first one that we'll show you is right behind. This is truly one of the most state-of-the-art cam machines on the face of the planet. It at full speed, and we don't run it there because we're looking for precision more than anything, but at full speed this thing can grind a camshaft from start to finish in about 2 minutes.
Wow.
It's incredible. Now we typically will grind something in this machine around 5 to 7 minutes, but it has the ability to do real big stuff. It's got a great big bed in it, but highly precise, I mean, so fast. Obviously comes with a big price tag too, but when it comes to precision, I don't think you can put a price tag on that.
And you got two of these things.
You got two of them. One is the bigger one, and then the one off to the left here is just a smaller bed, but it does exactly the same thing.
So you load cores in it, and it just goes?
Yep, absolutely. They got all these camshafts sitting here. Obviously the machine is pre-programmed, so we put in whatever we're putting in. A lot of times it's loaded by serial number because that's all programmed into the system. They put it in. There's obviously a little bit of setup to just make sure that it's dialed in correctly. And then close the door, push the button, it grinds the cam and unload it and load the next one in. So pretty neat.
So you're not supposed to ask what somebody makes and that sort of thing, but you told us the Adcold machine was $500,000 and this is a tiny little machine. This thing's huge.
It's about $1.5 million.
Woo!
Yeah, I think it's 1.2, 1.3, somewhere in that area. Probably by the time you get it here, ship it here, get it all set up. Yeah, it's a big price tag. So we got 2 of those, and then behind us we got about 8 more of the Akuma CNCs. A little bit less expensive machine, but still on the high end for sure. $700,000, $800,000 a piece. And these things we use, I mean, every single day. All 8 of these machines plus these other 2, so 10 CNCs in total, and another, I think there's 5 or 6 Burco machines, the manual machines over there. So like I said, we can grind a lot of camshafts in one day, and we can grind a lot of precise camshafts.
No doubt. So this is one of my favorite parts of coming down here, and I didn't know if we actually could come in here or not. You might notice it says restricted area because this is where a lot of the secret stuff happens for sure. I love this. Absolutely love it. As soon as you walk in the door, a RCR motor. This one I know a little bit about.
Look familiar?
Big old fuel motor right here. I mean, they're just cool stuff everywhere.
Yeah, so pretty much all the stuff that you see back here is current products that we have that we're testing for whatever reason. New products are back here being tested. All these vehicles, I mean, you can see a new Dodge Charger here that we're doing a whole bunch of torque converter testing on. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on back here all the time, and yeah, you see some pretty neat stuff. That's for sure.
I love coming back here. I really do.
It's the toy barn, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, all these engines at one time or another have been on the dyno or going to be on the dyno. You know, they're all, you know, a little bit of machining equipment back here just to tweak stuff as we go to. But the real magic happens kind of over in this corner. We have the two Spintron cells and then one engine dyno cell as well. We're actually in the process of going to expand this as well. We're going to add another couple engine dynos back here and grow it because the whole edelbrock and comp R&D teams are all coming together into one.
So he mentioned having engines on the dyno. A lot of these have been. The fuel motor has not. What we've done with the nitro motor down here is a lot of Spintron work, which is pretty cool. You can tell way more about the Spintron than I can.
We'll go over and have a look at the machines too, for sure.
If you could put a fuel motor on the dyno, I wouldn't want to be in the building with it.
No, that probably wouldn't be the smartest idea. I mean, they're a big enough bomb when they're attached to the frame rails.
Exactly.
But yeah, all these different engines, of course, are in process. We actually have an edelbrock crate engine here that we've been doing some new camshaft development on, some new valve train stuff. So lots of cool things going on between the two companies, that's for sure. And, you know, talking about Spintrons, that's basically what we have here is one of the two Spintron cells that we have. So a Spintron basically is just, I mean, it's a blank mandrel in place of the crankshaft. Yep, you betcha. So the crank really is, there is no crankshaft. It's just a straight through mandrel. It's there just so that it can drive the camshaft. There are no rods and pistons in this thing at all. We put the cylinder heads, all the valve train on it, obviously the camshaft and everything like that, and there's a big electric drive back here, all controlled by the electronics out there that spin this thing. And we can control, of course, the rate of acceleration, everything about it. This cell typically is used for endurance testing, and the one next to us is used for what we call dynamics testing. So this is when we're just trying to beat something to death.
Yep.
How
long will it live?
And I mean, we've been currently doing a bunch of rocker testing, lifter testing, all kinds of different things. And we'll typically put 2.5 million to 5 million engine cycles on a part when we're testing it. So I mean, that's about the equivalent of literally running the thing straight for about 30 to 35 hours, depending on RPM and things like that. So, and that's not just at idle. I mean, that's usually from 4,500, 5,000 to 7,000, 8,000 RPM, depending on what we're testing. So, or more even sometimes. We've been, 10,000 RPM on this thing. So yeah, pretty neat machines. Very controlled environment, lots of measuring equipment on here so we can literally tell what's going on with every part in the engine.
And even though it's not running, it gets loud because you can see here they got a big heavy blanket to help knock that sound down. These things are loud when they're running.
And concrete walls on all four just in case, because there's been a few things that have come apart over the years, and sometimes the best idea on paper isn't the best idea when it's inside an engine.
I love the Spintron.
Absolutely. So the last cell in here is our engine dyno. This is where we put gas and spark to it, and hopefully it all stays inside.
Yes.
But we can do all kinds of testing on here, of course. A lot of durability stuff, a lot of just standard sweep testing for horsepower and torque, comparing our stuff with competitor stuff, comparing our stuff with some of our older stuff when we're trying to make things better.
Yeah.
That's really what this is all about. Standard Superflow 902 dyno, pretty much an industry standard in what we do. And I mean, you kind of walk in this room here and you can see it's got hookups for everything in here. I mean, all the EGTs, all the O2 sensors. We typically run, you know, an EGT and an O2 sensor in every single hole. It draws fresh air in from outside so that we can control that very closely, keep the room nice and clean as well too. And yeah, I mean, you can do just about whatever you want. You can see this here has some of our new LS3 CNC ported heads from RHS on it. Our polymer LS3 intake manifold here as well. Our coils, you know, a bunch of our good parts in here. We're just doing some testing on this engine.
So I think it's kind of cool you brought up some of the products on here, and we've talked camshaft, because we're at comp right now.
Yes, yep.
But there's so many other things that this company does that I don't think people realize.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the fast intake manifold here. This thing's got fast coils on it.
Yep.
And fast is fuel air spark technology. Some of my bracket days, you know, we ran some of the early versions of this, and I know it's just gotten better and better and better. And you mentioned the heads. There's so many more parts and pieces that this company does. We've talked about edelbrock a little bit, but RHS for me goes back to when I was a kid. Racing Head Service, huge name, is still out there.
Absolutely. No, and I mean, we still have a lot of great products in RHS. That one's kind of combining a little bit more with edelbrock as we move forward because they have similar products, but the brand name is still going to stay there. We'll have you know, kind of a different cross section of stuff depending on racing versus street, and you'll kind of see that as we move forward a little bit more. But really, we have the ability within the newly formed edelbrock group to pretty much build an engine from top to bottom. It's really neat to see that coming together. You know, edelbrock has their crate engine program, which is really cool, and we've got a new guy in charge of that, and he's doing a wonderful job. And all the other parts and pieces that we're really starting to work together. We've got the foundry at edelbrock, of course, so we can literally cast our own parts. It's pretty exciting. It's very, very exciting, and it's just really all about making cool stuff and going fast.
It really is, and the stuff lasts and goes fast, and it's all right up my alley. And
absolutely,
I could stay here all day, but we're never going to be able to show y'all everything, so we got to keep moving.
That's right.
Yeah, I do want to get some with you, like if you don't care. You were our main Mopar customer back then.
Oh, absolutely. So, you got to tell everybody how long you been here.
I've been here a little about coming up to 22 years.
22 years. This is a crazy question. How many camshafts you think you've done?
I know, like this here serial number, we changed our computer system probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years. That's 500,000. Just in you know, this shop has stamped up almost 500,000 cams.
Wow.
In probably 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And that was, you know, like I said, you consider. I mean, like I said, go look at Arendelle. He's been here.
Oh yeah.
You know,
since the concrete got
yeah,
made.
just about. Yeah, just about.
Thank good to
All
see
right,
you.
you too. Good luck.
2 seconds to say hi to somebody.
Sure.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah. Are you? What are you doing? What
I
are you
don't
doing here?
care.
You don't care.
You get a hug from
See you,
me.
man.
So we're down here doing a little
I see that you bring video
stuff.
cameras.
Well,
Celebrity
you know,
status has
well,
its
no, it was you. See, so
it
it's
must
like
have been Mark.
some of all the above.
Yeah.
So just wanted to come down. I mean, kind of jumped off in the whole YouTube thing, and this goes
Right.
everywhere. You know how important social media has become, but I'm like, got to come down and see you guys.
Well, I'm glad you did. And, you know, in some ways the place looks very much the same. In other ways it looks very different. A lot of growth and new faces, new people, but we're still the same company.
Absolutely. So since we're videoing, can you give us a quick rundown of what has kind of changed over, I guess, the last year?
Yep.
Essentially, this
That's
place,
close.
Comp Cams, you know, is near and dear to me, always has
Yeah.
been, but it has grown. Tell us what's happened.
Sure has. So now it's no longer just Comp Cams or the Comp Performance Group. We've actually morphed into the Edelbrock Group. So we have Edelbrock, Comp Cams, TCI, Fast, Russell Plumbing, and those are our power brands. So we've become a much larger, more diversified, go fast company. So it's exciting times right here. Again, new faces. We're really trying to pull together the best of edelbrock and the best of comp cams to be a really cool new company.
And it is huge. I mean, that when you say those brands, I mean, every one of them you mentioned is big, and now they're all under one roof. And
That's right.
it is almost a one-stop shop for the go-fast guy like me and people that'll be watching this, that's for sure.
Yeah, 8 locations kind of from coast to coast between our manufacturing locations. So it's really grown into an amazing company. But we're working really hard to make sure we keep kind of the small personal feel that we've always been known for, that Vic Edelbrock was known for. You know, that's a company that many of us have admired from afar. So to finally be able to work with those brands, that's pretty cool.
It is really cool. Yeah. So not only are you kind of like overseeing all this stuff going on, but you've always been very involved in SEMA.
Yes.
Are you still?
I am still on the SEMA board,
Yep.
And that's been a very busy endeavor over the last year because everybody knows with the pandemic and the trade shows not happening, we had a lot of work to do there. More recently, the EPA and CARB situation has become a hot topic, and that group is working really hard to make sure that motorsports enthusiasts and hot rodders are protected.
And you're kind of talking about the RPM Act there a little bit.
Act,
I mean,
yeah.
that is definitely something that I've actually made a couple trips, not specifically for the RPM Act, but I've made a couple trips to Washington over data. You know, it's to me, it's all one and the same. You know, you gotta, you gotta keep guys like me that like going fast to have the ability to work on their car, and obviously it's important to you for business to keep parts being made, and we got to keep hot rodding going.
We do, and I would encourage everyone who watches this, let your lawmakers know how you feel about this. That's really our best defense, is go on the offensive and let them know that this industry is viable, it provides jobs, and it's our passion. It's a way of the American culture. And so let them know, and rally behind the industry. We have to do this to make sure we can keep racing. So many of these cars start out on the street and then they're converted to race cars, whether it's your local dirt track or drag strip. And if the EPA and CARB were to get their way, that may come to an end. So we got to make sure that we don't let that happen.
And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. Most average person thinks of SEMA, they think of the SEMA show, but that is only a small part of really what SEMA does. I don't think they realize that you have lobbyists in Washington that are working on this kind of thing all the time, and I think it's really important that people realize while the SEMA shows, like, the glitz and glamour, golly, while the SEMA show is kind of the glitz and glamour, SEMA is really there to protect everybody that loves their cars.
Yeah, it's a trade show, like you said, that's the visible part of what we do, but that's really the least impactful for the industry. It's the other 350 some odd days out of the year. What they do is more important to the industry. It's protect it, make sure that they allow it to grow and continue on for future generations. So what they're doing in Washington, very important. Certainly helping the members navigate the pandemic, and the backside of that, helping race facilities keep the doors open. If we don't have a place to race, then it all kind of caves in. So they're working really hard. There's never been a more important time for our industry than right now.
I agree. So since I got you, and we're on the SEMA subject, we are going racing in Vegas in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to have a SEMA show this year?
Absolutely. There will be a SEMA show in some shape, form, or fashion. It may be look a little different, be a little more spaced out, but there will be in-person trade shows, both SEMA and PRI this year. Really excited about some of the stuff going on at PRI.
I love PRI.
They're really getting active with Dr. Jamie Meyer leading PRI now, and it's wonderful to see because, again, it's a critical time for the industry.
Absolutely. Buddy, thank you. I didn't mean to take up so much time.
No worries. Hey, this is your house as well. So, matter of fact, make sure you get that in the shot over there behind your shoulder.
Oh, definitely.
Your cam there, and we're excited for you to get back on the track and get it done again.
Thanks for all y'all have done for me for way too many years.
It goes both ways. And so you're part of the family.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Take care.
So this is something that I am definitely super proud of. When we were able to win Bristol, finally got that NHRA monkey off our back. this is the actual camshaft that come right out of the car. We were able to bring down here and on display right here at Comp Cams. I absolutely love it. Got goosebumps thinking about it. It's pretty cool. All right, that was a quick rundown of a huge location here. Comp Cams. Mark gave us a quick rundown, but we're not done. We're headed south.
Absolutely. We're going to head over to Olive Branch, Mississippi now. We got our big warehouse over there, and that's also where we make the edelbrock intake manifolds now as well too. So we're going to see a whole bunch of boxes and a whole bunch of cool chips flying all over the place from some CNC machines.
I'm excited because I have not seen the edelbrock side of things. I do kind of know what's going on down here somewhat, so I'm excited to go see the Olive Branch location.
Should be awesome.
Let's go.